Welcome back everyone. We've got another project that's just started. We've decided to upgrade our camper van. We took it out not that long ago and we decided actually, do you know what, the family's too large now. So we're getting rid of our Mark 7 Transit, which is our 5-berth, and I bought a new project and it's bigger, I won't lie. Let's go and have a wee look at it though. And what we're going to do is see what we've got. Now I've already had a look at some of the bits and pieces, some of the issues with this vehicle, and yeah, let's take a quick look though and see what we've got. Let me show you it before I started taking the front end off. See you in a second. And I know what you're thinking. David, looks like a pretty good van. Why is there a problem? Why take the front end off? Well, the reason is because of this. And second of all, because of this. Now, I ended up doing a couple of different things, trying to find out what was going wrong. And I kept getting an error for a crankshaft position sensor. Now, I was already aware of this when I bought the van, and it could have been something simple or it could have been something more catastrophic. Have a guess which one it was. Now, I ended up doing a couple of simple tests first. First thing, change out the sensor. Change out the crankshaft position sensor. Boy had already said it had been changed, but I couldn't verify that, so I ended up buying another one, another Bosch one. No change. I checked the resistance on all of the wiring, seemed to be fine. 0.4 ohms, everything was all okay, seemed to come up absolutely fine. As a result, I then decided that I would change out the wiring. I would completely bypass the wiring that was running under the engine cover in this and just completely replace it, because it was suggesting that it was disturbed or interference that was coming through. Still no change. So with the scan tool and my Pico, I decided I would measure the waveform, which is what we saw earlier on. Now, looking at the waveform, everything seems to be okay with there. You can see the teeth, you can see the pulses, we can see a gap, everything looks fine. But still not working. So I thought maybe there's an issue with ECU. Maybe there's a problem with the ECU. Everything seems to be fine from the bottom up. Maybe it's just that. So I decided to go and order another ECU. Got it in, ordered it from Poland actually. Got it from Poland. Actually got it shipped in quite quickly actually from UPS. The only downside is because of everything going on just now in the UK, I then got hit with the import tax for it as well. So that was a little bit of a surprise. Not quite used to that yet. But anyway, I ended up having to pay my taxes on this thing. Took it down to a shop as well, near me, a tuner, SM tuning or SM remapping. Took it down to them, asked them to clone over the ECU. I'll put a picture of it here. So that's all good, got it done, everything's fine, and I take it back down. Now actually the reason why I changed out the ECU was because I did take it apart. I did take the ECU apart, and one of the things to be careful of if you're taking yours apart, this particular ECU is actually still bolted in and glued in on the underside, so you can't necessarily take this board off and flip it around to get to the other side of the circuit. But initially I had taken this lid off. The problem was, however, is you've only got about 10 mil round this edge. So around this edge with your pry tools and you heat this up, you can cut the silicone across here, but you can only go in about 10mm, if that. If your blade ends up coming in too far, you end up hitting all of the surface mount components that are on the board, which ended up what happening to me. I ended up losing 2 resistors and 3 caps, but thankfully I've got my rework station, so I was able to put them in, you know, solder them back in and replace them, so that was all fine. So this is the original one out of the van. The replacement's in here already. So bear that in mind if you're ever taking your ECU apart. Be very fragile and gentle with this, because it can end up biting you. Anyway, that's fine. Got it fixed, got it cloned, put it back in, put it back in, hoping for the best, and nah, still the same issue. Dang. Oh, yes, I know, you in the back. Should have paid more attention to that waveform. You're right. Now, as I was looking over the waveform again, I had put my endoscope down to check that timing gear, that reluctor ring or tone ring, and you know, it looked fine, and I'll put a video of it up here as I'm going through it. It looked absolutely fine, so that's why I wasn't chasing it. I was thinking I was having a problem higher up. But I couldn't sleep for 4 days and decided, you know what, I'm going to have another wee look at this waveform. So I removed the cam sensor. I've got the crankshaft sensor still in. Hook up the Pico again. Just crank it over on the starter motor just to have a wee look. And then I end up seeing this. Now, if we look close at that particular picture, everything looks fine, and then you get towards the end, and then there's 3 teeth or 3 humps that are much smaller than the rest. Then we have a space, and then it starts off again. Now, the space is perfectly fine. The 3 teeth that are smaller, or the 3 humps that are smaller, not so good. Now, I was trying to track down on the Iveco forums whether or not somebody had a known good crankshaft signal, but I wasn't able to get that, so I couldn't compare it. So I stuck the endoscope back down again, just twisting it around, just doing everything I could to try and get different angles to see if I could find what the problem was. And there we go. I found it. Here. So, yeah, annoyingly, that reluctor ring has been damaged. Now, it does appear like this particular van actually has had a timing belt change on it just recently. So the current working theory with a partner of the channel, Ruff Autos, the current working theory is that this has been in for a timing belt, but they left the timing pin in. So they left the timing pin in, cranked it over, and that's what's bent the teeth. Now, unfortunately, that then gives me the problem. That's what I've ended up buying. Now, in theory, I should just be able to replace this part. But I am struggling to find that particular part, and Iveco themselves want you to buy the entire crankshaft to be able to do it. Now, a full crankshaft for this van, the 2.3 JTD, it's basically a Fiat engine that's in here. Certainly on eBay, I'm looking about £400 odd for that particular crankshaft, excluding any other, you know, bearings and gaskets and bolts and things like that I need obviously to replace it. So unfortunately, this engine has to come out now. I need to replace that tone ring, either repair it, replace it, or replace the entire crankshaft. While the engine's out though, I'm going to do some preventive maintenance. I'm going to change over the clutch because I need to disconnect it from the gearbox anyway. We'll replace the clutch, we'll change some oil seals, new oil sump, filters, etc. All of the usual things, replace bolts and that type of stuff. New timing belt as well. So that there is the reason why the front end has to come off. Now, I'm going to get that fixed, and I'll be able to fix it relatively straightforward. It just sucks. So unfortunately, that's the situation with Echo. But I wanted to show you the new project. Again, this will be done as a conversion 100% this time. Some of them have just been given away, obviously, to other people for their purposes. And that's effectively what's allowed me to be able to buy this for my conversion. Sadly, engine has to come out of this one. The gamble didn't pay off. I still got it for decent enough money, so there's still room in it. And like I said, I'm going to end up keeping it for myself as well. I hope you enjoy this series on the Iveco. I'm sure it's going to pose a lot of different challenges. Certainly already I'm facing a lot of different problems with the Iveco compared to the likes of the Transit or the Doblo and the Ka, etc. that I've done work on. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode when we pull this big behemoth out and find out if I was right. Forgot to say actually, this is actually a 2017 van with 84,000 miles, 84 or 85,000 miles on the clock. It's barely been driven and we're already dead. We'll see whether or not I made the right decision.